Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am your host, Patty Rose. My guest today for the third time is Lea Jones. Lea, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Patty.
Lea, so this is the third time you've been on the show, like I said 10 seconds ago. Your crew, you and Keenan Dorn, make up the musical duo based in Eugene, Oregon, Buffalo Romeo. And I originilly saw you at the Willamette Valley Opry at Willamette High School. I'm not sure what year it was, but it's been close to 10 years. And I became a fan of your music. And then you and I crossed paths on social media on a lot of political conversations and commentary. And we have quite a bit of mutual friends and whatnot. So, and then you and I have become friends behind the scenes. So you have a new album, and I wanted to have you on to talk about it. And also, you've been going through some pretty heavy health issues that I'd like to touch on today. And so I thought it was a great opportunity to have you on the podcast to talk about your music and all kinds of stuff. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, man. The last couple of years have been pretty interesting for all of us.
It's been a roller coaster. Talking to you before we hit record, you were telling me about how things are great. And that's something that I'm glad to hear because you have been through a lot. And I've been following on social media, and you're very open and transparent. And so I really am honored to have you on, and I'm honored to call you a friend. So now let's talk about your new album. Your band is called Buffalo Romeo. Before we get into the album, let's talk about a little bit. If anybody hasn't listened to the podcast in the past when you were a guest, tell me about Buffalo Romeo. It's a two-part duo, like I had said before, with Keenan Dorn. Keenan is a young man. He's 26 years old, and you are not 26 years old. So I think it really brings this eclectic flavor, having kind of different generations. But tell me in your words, for somebody that's never heard of you, about what Buffalo Romeo is.
One of the best things about what Buffalo Romeo has spawned over the years is that Keenan Dorn is now a disciple of gonzo country rock coming out of Austin, which was sort of our prevailing ethic back there in the late 70s. Jerry Jeff Walker was one of my big influences. For those of your listeners who've never heard of Jerry Jeff Walker, and that's okay. He wrote Mr. Bojangles, and if you never heard of that, then I don't think that's okay. But what are we going to do about it? Jerry Jeff made so much money on Mr. Bojangles that he was able to record two albums that were like not studio albums without any kind of oversight from the record industry, and he became kind of the iconic figure that all of us in the late 70s, were playing, like Up Against the Wall, Redneck Mother, and LA Freeway, which was a Guy Clark song. Keenan has absorbed this musical ethos, is that the right word, that I've been wallowing in for the last 50 years now, and made it his own, which is really cool. I feel like I've effectively passed the torch, and we have a great deal of fun playing. I play acoustic guitar and I played solo for years. I was a New Song national finalist, and I played up at Bumbershoot solo and did a lot of work solo until I grew weary of telling my story, through songs, and pretty much stopped. There's a whole lot, there's a long and sordid history of my songwriting and the changes I went through. But what we have with this record, and I did bring into the studio here, I brought a copy of the CD.
What is a CD?
What is a CD? He said. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, radio stations like CDs. A bunch of radio stations would prefer to get a CD. Let's see if I go that way.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful. 16-page insert. Is that what you had said?
16-page booklet in there with liner notes and stuff. And we have that. We peddle that at our live shows. And since our demographic is people over 60 for the most part, a lot of them still can play CDs, which is really cool. it's also on Spotify and all the front to back. We have a download option on Bandcamp where you can only download the whole album. And it's we started. Okay, so the deal with this record is COVID hit in 2020, started 2020, and it wasn't so long after the start of 2020 that I got diagnosed with a couple of different kind of cancers. And we spent the next year fighting with local doctors and doing some treatments that got parts of the cancer under control and parts of it not under control. And Buffalo Romeo, meanwhile, was doing these outdoor gigs, many guerrilla gigs as well during 2020 when gatherings were verboten for the most part, as you may recall. And we started calling our live set at that point Romeo Therapy because people just wanted to come out and hear music, and we were more than happy to oblige as long as it was outside and there was a lot of space. And so we went through that season, and we got into the fall and winter of late 2020. And it looked like there was going to be another year of this COVID business, and there was certainly another year of this cancer thing that I was starting to, continuing to contend with. And so Keenan and I decided to make a record. And as I had been over the years making records with people that I didn't know, in the studio, writing songs and then going into the studio and trying to make studio recordings with studio musicians, I kind of gave up on it because none of the songs were ever coming out the way that I wanted them to come out. And so when Keenan and I went into the studio in March of 2021, with a handful of songs that we had selected from our live set of my originals that we wanted to put on the record, we knew the arrangements. We had the vocals already figured out. Keenan had been playing guitar on these songs for 8 years. Buffalo Romeo has been playing for 8 years at this point. And we went into the studio and started tracking with Bo Eastland, who's a wonderful drummer, plays lots of groups around town. He's also the engineer at the Golden Lab Studios over in Springfield, in your neighborhood there. And he also did the album art. I'll just show this one more time. But he did the graphic design on this thing, and it's a ridiculously lovely album that we did in the style of LPs. We made it as close to being like an LP experience as you could have. But we started tracking in March of 2021, and bass and drums on almost everything. And then we started realizing, well, some of these songs don't really want to have bass and drums on them. So we started peeling the bigger band feel away from a number of the songs, and the ones that you have queued up for playing here are two of the more acoustic-y kind of songs. The first one is one that I wrote all the way back in 1978 when I was like writing for this album. I just didn't know it. It's like 45 years later, this song would fit like a glove on the end of the record. And you were mentioning earlier, it's a somber kind of sounding record.
Yeah, this album is it's really awesome, and there is definitely a somber tone to it. The first song specifically we're going to play, tell us a little bit about that. Like you just said, this is something that you had wrote a long time ago but just never recorded. The song is called When You Find Me by Buffalo Romeo. Tell me what the song's all about.
Yeah, I wrote that thing when I was 28, and what it was about. I mean, it's open to a lot of interpretations. I always sort of looked at it as like a musical suicide note, but I wasn't feeling suicidal. I was just feeling like, I'm never going to hit the big time, but God, I got so much music stuff going on. I can't stand it how much music is in my head all the time. And it's like, yeah, it
Yeah,
was,
let's go
spin that thing.
Yeah, let's play it. This is a beautiful song. This is Buffalo Romeo with the song When You Find Me, and we'll be back to talk about it on the other side.
Right on. When you find me, please listen to my song. My strength is nearly gone, so am I. There's a south wind on the sky over the plain. Doesn't feel the same, but I don't know why. Tell my mother, yeah, that it was a fiery crash. Yeah, give her all my cash and keep the change. Tell my brother I found out that he was right, and he should be glad he didn't try to ride this train. When you find me, listen to my song. It's the same one I was singing all along. When you find me, when you find me, don't you tell them what I've done. Just say my time was come and now it's gone. I beat the hangman, yeah, I beat him at his game. Oh, and look at what I gained living on the run. Well, I found shadows where I'd hoped to find some light. When I was younger than I might have stood a chance. I kept looking for a key, for a clue, yeah, for a way to get to you and start this dance. When you find me, pay attention to my song. It's the same one I was singing all along. Oh, yeah. Oh, when you find me,
It's pretty great. Pretty great. I want to give a shout out too to the people that had commented. Thomas, the Country Boy Gas Garage, and Amber. Thank you so much for your comments. And for the people not listening, I'll read them. Thomas just said, "Woohoo, STRPOD." Country Boy Garage added, "Sounds great," with a thumbs up. And then Amber added, "Thank you for sharing. Beautiful, wise, and makes you look internally." Yeah, Lee, this is a great album. It's really pretty. It's really deep and meaningful. And you've gone through a lot in this last stretch. And if you'd like, I would love to hear a little bit about what's going on with your health and where we're at with that. You've been really public on social media, but you're a pretty open guy, and I relate to you a lot, even though we don't know each other super well, but behind the scenes we've become pretty good friends just on social media, and I'm definitely inspired by you, and I relate to you a lot. But yeah, tell me what's going on with all that.
I've been a teacher and a person who stood on stage all of his life, so it's kind of normal for me to talk. What I didn't do for 2 years was talk about the cancer, because it was just going downhill the whole time. All we were getting was just bad news. And it wasn't until I don't know, 2 months ago, when we finally, 2.5 months, I've lost track, got word that one of the chemo regimens actually was making the cancer retreat. And that was the point at which I started talking about it, because it's like, all right, I'm not going to wallow in this on Facebook. I did wear kilts for the better part of 2 years because we were dealing with urological and bladder stuff. And it was kind of my FU to the universe. It's like in fact, there's a cut on YouTube. Buffalo Romeo has a YouTube channel. It's got some fun stuff on it. And one of them is a live version of Hang On Ruthie, where I'm wearing a kilt. And it's like, I actually had a catheter strapped to my leg during that show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we started chemo, after fighting with local doctors who were too cautious to, go to the heavier duty chemo. We finally switched docs up to OHSU in January of this year, I guess. And they switched over to a heavier duty chemo regimen. I did want to show you a photograph of when I had hair in 1975. This is when I first moved up to Eugene. So there's hardly, we almost look alike. Still got the dimples, right?
Yeah.
I got another one too. This is my Greg Allman military ID photo. My dad loved this one the most. He was a colonel in the Air Force, and this is my 1972, just fresh out of high school military ID. So yeah, I did have hair once. I've gotten used to showing the pate now. It took a while, man.
Yeah, well, it's such a difficult thing, but your transparency is inspiring. Even on social media to read, I know sometimes people are like, I don't want to put all of it out there, but I think it actually really helps people.
Well, like I was saying, I like telling stories, and I figure, my early songs were about my, path, and my path had to do with codependence and insecurity and just looking for love in all the wrong and sometimes the right-ish places. And those songs were, worth writing and sharing, I thought. And we put out some albums back in the late 80s, a couple of them on cassette, 2 albums on cassette that, did relatively well, considering, we were small scale and whatnot. And I did all these shows. I did all of these concerts where I was talking about self-help, my self-help philosophy and And a lot of people were like going through the same stuff. They were all, you know, the recovery movement in the 80s. A lot of people were just talking about how to break out of, you know, codependent relationships and all this. There's all this buzzword stuff, but I got tired of talking about my stuff. I got tired of writing about my stuff because I got to a point in my life where, having gone through some workshops and group, you know, experiential, spiritual, quasi-spiritual stuff, that being honest and open with people just in person without having to write a song about it became possible for me. And I refused to I was never a person that was going to want to write music just because I had to feel like I had to put out 8 songs that year. It's like I put out a few songs when I got something to say, you know, and lately it's all been, you know, Hang On Ruthie and Big Money, and, you know, it's a political stuff. And this record came about as a result halfway through this 2-year thing with, you know, spiraling downward bad news about cancer. It's like, hell, you know, we're not going to be playing anywhere again for this next year. Let's make an album. And so we started planning the album in late 2020 and spent March of 2021 all the way to March of 2022 this year recording the record. And Keenan and I did a lot of the heavy lifting. Bo Eastland, who did the CD production, as I said, was the drummer on most of the tracks. And so it's really a 3-man band with, you know, Delphio Marsalis and Joe Crown from New Orleans sitting in on a pair of songs, and Hank Shreve sitting in on a song, and wonderful mandolin player from Portland, Caden Hurst, sitting in on a song. But mainly it's just the 3 of us. We did over 80 sessions in the studio making the record. And while we were making the record, you know, we're getting calls in from, I'm getting my chart stuff on the portal from OHSU saying, yeah, that cancer's not dead. It's moved up into this lymph node. And, you know, that recording session just went all to shit. And so we started structuring the album, and we re-recorded some songs in order to, you know, get the cheery glow off of some of these songs that have no business being cheery, like that last one there, you know.
Sure.
Bo was recording that song. Bo was finishing the mix on that song, and he's like, "That's the saddest song I've ever heard," you know. And he thought I had written it this year. He thought I'd written it,
Yeah.
you know, and fixing to dye a rag, you know. And no, I wrote that in 1978. I was like 28 years old or something, you know. Just happens to fit, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty special, pretty prophetic that at 28 years old you could write something so powerful. Kind of, you know, looking forward towards later in life, reflecting back. It's kind of it's an interesting thing, you know.
Yeah, well, I didn't really plan on being on the record, you know, 50 years later. But, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Into the time machine.
So the band is Buffalo Romeo, and you guys are going to be venturing up to Portland for the first time. So tell me where you're playing at, when that's at, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Buffalo Romeo. You know, we've used up most of our Eugene stay. I've pissed off so many local bar owners with complaining about shitty stage and, you know, crappy practices one way or another. Anybody who knows me knows that I have not very much patience for music venues that, you know, treat musicians like shit. So we have like 3 places we can play in Eugene now. Keenan moved to Portland right after we finished recording this record, and we had been urging him to do this for quite a long time because he is the boy wonder. He is the wonderkind, virtuosic musician. He's not just a strings player. I mean, he plays upright bass, plays this thing called a mandolar. I'm sorry. He plays keyboards, he plays kazoo, he plays banjo, and pedal steel, which you heard on that record. All of these things, he's on our album playing all those deals, and I'm playing my acoustic guitar and singing and doing arranging harmonies. And so it was long since time for Keenan to get on up the road to Portland. And we've never played Portland. We've never once played Portland. And so I can't really give up Buffalo Romeo. Buffalo Romeo is not done. It's just we have a few gigs coming up at 16 tons over the summer, especially during the World Track Championships. So we have alternate venues for people to go when they want to get away from Obi Land down there on the waterfront.
Yeah. So now, anybody listening, go to Facebook and follow Buffalo Romeo. Also, Buffalo Romeo on YouTube. There's a lot of videos. And then, is it a separate page than your Lea Jones stuff, or is it all under Buffalo Romeo now on YouTube?
The YouTube stuff is all on one page. It says Buffalo Romeo. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of the Vietnam project was on there.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of it's a weird mishmash of things, but including Hang On Ruthie and the infamous kilt with the catheter version of Hang On Ruthie's there on YouTube. But we have the most recent thing we did on YouTube, and I've got a new vid project that's coming up. It's going to be about gender flux and pronouns and by non-binary relationship stuff, and it's going to be a really funny educational song that will be informative for my peer group.
For your generation. I've talked to you about this in the past, and I like where your head's at with it, because you're open-minded, but you're also honest about how I'm not going to lie to you and say that any of this stuff makes sense, but I'm willing to try to learn, and that's me. That's me paraphrasing, but I appreciate that kind of.
I have some dear friends and relations who are gender fluxy and have been trying to educate me on this stuff for a while. And I have a number of friends who, I know enough about it to know that I don't know very much about it. But I'm starting to gather a team of songwriters who can help me with the lyrics on this thing, because I don't know enough about the whole, alphabet mafia thing, as I believe the LGBTQ plus community has been known to refer to themselves. There's a lot of people in that community, so
there's going to be a lot of different opinions. Yeah.
When you make this record, when we make this video, a lot of people are going to be, put off one way or another, because you start making funny rhymes and you start stepping on toes. But when in the end, what's going to come out, if we, and I know it's a song that everybody knows. I'm not giving it away, but it's an old 60s rock song that we can do a straight parody of, and we're actually making fun of the lyrics of the original song.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, celebrating this entirely new way of looking at relationship, which, people under, 40 or especially 30 have become very comfortable with.
Right.
Not all over the country, but the youth are really, we find the youth are much more flexible than us old people,
Right.
I think,
We're going to play one more song. Before we do, I want to say, if you want to sponsor the podcast, you can go to STRPOD.com. And there's a donate now button, or under the sponsors tab. And there's two ways: PayPal and Patreon, to become a monthly sponsor. Or if you'd like to just make a quick one-time donation, you can go to Venmo at Spent the Rent. And you can also make one-time donations on PayPal as well on the website. But on Venmo, it's very fast, at Spent the Rent. I've got some exciting stuff coming up. I'm going to be rolling out some stickers and some magnets that we'll be able to order probably on the next stream. And so look forward to that. Lea Jones of Buffalo Romeo, it's always a treat to chat with you. Thank you so much for your transparency on social media. And again, go to Buffalo Romeo. Anyone listening, go to Buffalo Romeo on Facebook and follow that, because that's the best place to get the updates about when the shows are happening. and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we do have the one coming up. I do want to push this. It's June 8th, Wednesday night at Laurel Thirst Public
In
House
Portland.
in Portland. This is our first Portland gig ever. So if you know anybody up in Portland, it's a free show, and I'm buying around for everybody, everybody from OHSU Cancer Ward up there on the 13th floor of the Kohler Pavilion, man.
Yeah.
What
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lee. And I'm honored to call you my friend. And
Right on.
I love your music. I really do. It's really touching. And this is such a touching album, you know, and thank you for the art that you've given the world.
Right on. We're going to keep doing it. Keep doing it. Yeah. We got this song is the most recent song I wrote, and it was about our trip. It's kind of about our trip west from Maryland when my son and I moved out here, based on Lewis and Clark's journals.
Wow.
One of the books was called Beyond the Stony Mountains.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you so much, Lee. And this is Buffalo Romeo. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to end this with a song. This is the song by Buffalo Romeo. The song is West of the Stony Mountains.
You've been calling me out, you've been calling my bluff. I jumped out of bed like enough is enough. I'm heading west of the Stony Mountains. Made up my mind to make a new start, heading out west with an aching in my heart. West of the Stony Mountains. I've been walking through fire all these years. I got nothing to lose, I got nothing to fear. I'm heading west of the Stony Mountains. Okay, so long, my old friends. I'll see you sometime, but I don't know when. I'm heading west of the Stony Mountains. Yeah, I'm heading west of the Stony Mountains. Meriwether said to Willie the Kid, grab all them pots and lids, we're heading west of the Stony Mountains. We're gonna follow the sun in the evening sky. What do you say when they ask you why you're heading west of the Stony Mountains? Well, you say something you can't explain, something you can't explain. I said something you can't explain, something you can't explain. It's like the first day of summer, a break in the rain, that first real kiss, there's no way to explain. West of the Stony Mountains. It's like a song that you hear, can't get out of your head. Dreams of the light, the days of the dead, we're heading west of the Stony Mountains. Out on a road late last night, I seen my pretty Alice in every tail light, heading west of the Stony Mountains. It was 6 in the morning, she gave me no warning, I had to be on my way west of the Stony Mountains. Clouds so swift and rain falling in, I'm gonna see a man about a horse that's heading west of the Stony Mountains. Yeah, stirrup to stirrup, and side by side, across those mountains and the valleys wide, heading west of the Stony Mountains. Oh, I've been away so long, I hardly knew the place. God, it's good to be back home. Oh, west of the Stony Mountain. Here we go. Stir to stir, side by side, we cross those mountains and the valleys wide. Stir to stir, side by side, we cross those mountains and the valleys wide. Yeah, stir to stir, side by side, we cross those mountains and the valleys wide. Heading west of the Stony Mountains. West of the Stony Mountains.